Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Not the best of clearances. Oh, what a volley! Mats Hummels!
Brandt in for Haaland! Like he's never been away! The man in front of goal who is simply deadly.
Hey, welcome to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake. Carver is with me as always, and I'm not going to go through the whole big intro because usually I mess it up. And more importantly, we have a real special guest with us. Josh from JJD TV is joining us. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, boys. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk a little Dortmund action with you guys.
Of course. Thank you for coming on the show. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I was one of the first few fans to see some of your first uploads a few years back. So, happy to have you on, man. I love your work. And also a huge congrats for joining One Soccer. I saw that you announced that, a few weeks back now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Got to see Josh in his first raw experience on YouTube way back in the day, so that's good. But yeah, obviously, being Canadian and following the Canadian national team, and there's been a big hype here in Canada, so doing a little content on that, and then got myself a job at One Soccer. So it's been pretty cool, but despite what people think, because I don't do as much Dortmund content anymore, I still watch the boys and root from afar as opposed to the up in front when it came to being on the camera.
Yeah, I mean, awesome to see you. I mean, congrats to Canada, first of all. This is also now officially just the CONCACAF episode, us being Americans and you, Canada. We're expanding up north a little bit. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. It's just been awesome to see your growth and, the move now and focus on Canada leading up to the World Cup, which we do some USMNT, not coverage, but we'll talk about it a little bit.
Here and there.
Yeah, here and there. But yeah, thanks again for joining us. And so obviously we're coming off Der Klassiker, Dortmund Bayern, the away leg, or away, not leg, it's not a leg, I'm already messing things up, but the away match. And then this morning too, we had the match for peace friendly against Dynamo Kiev, which none of us, we talked before we started recording, none of us were able to watch because they had limited streaming. And I checked even 5 minutes before and 10 minutes after the game started to see if ESPN was going to put up a link, which they did not. But quick mention on that, we got to see a lot of young players come in since it was a friendly. They just made a lot of subs. A lot of people got some time on the pitch. Jamie bynoe-gittens scored, which I know a lot of people are going to be excited, and I don't want to say get carried away, but a lot of people are already going to be calling for him to start next season.
I'm getting carried away after seeing the 20 or 30 minutes over the weekend, man. I was hyped.
And then Tom Rota scored again,
yep,
which is always good to see. They ended up losing 2-3, but it's a friendly. Like I said, we got some young guys getting minutes, and it was all for all to benefit Ukraine with the war and everything going on. So, and I think it was 35,000 fans.
Yeah, I saw It was about that, around that number for sure, which is, it's cool to see. I mean, you get all those people around to come together for, unity and at least try to have some sort of peace of mind and try to keep their minds off of what the horrible things that are going around those areas, and have some nice times together. So cool to see.
And but yeah, so with that said, we're gonna jump right into Der Klassiker. And first, I guess leading into this game, thoughts on the lineup. I mean, we were injury riddled again as we have been all season. But Carver, do you want to start with?
Yeah,
right off the bat?
Well, I saw a little bit of your live stream, Josh, and I saw that your prediction, if I'm not wrong, was a 3-1, which it's funny because it seemed like you and I were one of the very few realists, I guess, going into this game, because I went to the fan club showing, I guess, at the bar the other day, and it was a big turnout for the Dortmund fan club, probably a good 20, 25 people there. And everyone I talked to were like, you know what, I'm feeling it, man. 4-2 Dortmund or 3-2 Dortmund. That's I love the energy. Let's see how long we can keep it up. But I felt like I was one of the very few that was a realist. But my prediction was a 4-1 too. I thought it was going to be at least somewhat of a bloodbath, which thankfully that didn't really happen. But especially after seeing Renier in the lineup, that made me physically laugh out loud to myself. It just I don't know, raised some eyebrows for me. Josh, did you have any other thoughts or predictions on the lineup?
No, I literally had a word vomit. And like the second I took a look at the starting 11, I said 3-0. It popped out of my mouth without thinking. So my prediction was 3-0 Bayern. I didn't see this going any other way. I think you had Bayern, like, as we know, like Bayern thrive off of winning. Like, it's just how they are. Their number one goal is to succeed in the Champions League. They not only lost out to the quarterfinals, but with no disrespect to Villarreal, but they lost out to an opponent that they're expecting to move on. So
yeah.
I think that they were wounded animals coming into this. I think that this is the first opportunity since COVID to win the title in front of fans. So you had 75,000 fans at home coming off a Champions League upset, and you're against Dortmund where you can lift your 10th consecutive. I felt like there was nothing going to go against that. On top of that, the starting 11 looked the way it did. So it was about par for the course.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know if Rosa was just kind of going into this when he started Renier of like, we have not much to lose, or he actually saw something promising in him to really give him that opportunity. But yeah, either way, that was raising some eyebrows from me. Jake, did you have any other thoughts on that?
I mean, a little confused seeing him in there and seeing him in on the lineup, and I was going hopeful. That's why Carver's the realist. He's like, I was going in thinking we're going to lose this game, and I always just try to be hopeful. Then I usually just get real sad. But yeah, that was weird, and I thought, you know what, maybe he's going to show something. Being hopeful, and then not really. But
I know last week when we were recording, my original prediction was a 2-2, and that was me being hopeful. But then, like, on the air, you were like, "Oh, Koval was taken out of training," and I was like, maybe you might want to scale that prediction back a little bit. And those go ahead.
I just don't understand what the reasoning is to start Renier. I mean, like, there's two situations when, like, Hakimi was here. He was a player who was just unbelievably talented. He was a starter week in, week out, but he's a player that was always going to return on loan back to Madrid. Renier is the exact same type of contract, 2-year loan deal, has done absolutely nothing at the club. What is the point of playing him against Bayern in a match like this when he's done nothing? He's going back to Madrid. It just baffled me. I would have rather seen Mukuku or Gittens or I mean, honestly, Schultz up there. Like, I don't understand why he started. He did nothing as he's done for his entire Dortmund stint here. I can't wait to see him go back to Madrid and then hopefully finds a move somewhere where the kid can play.
Yeah, there's no way he gets any sort of time on the pitch at Madrid when he goes back if he continues to have the kind of form that he's been having the last 2 years. I mean, it's been shocking. But I thought the same thing. I thought Moukoko at least needed or deserved some sort of a shout in this game. I don't think he came on at all, if I'm not wrong.
He came on for Holland, but it was like
he did?
87th.
Okay, 87th, yeah.
Late, so.
Go figure.
Him and Paslat came on the same time.
Yeah.
So,
of course.
Of
course.
There you go.
Yeah, staying on that subject, because that was one of my like talking points, or I guess player reviews, was just his performance, and it was just nothing. It was just non-existent. We talked about it before. Like, anytime he's come on, it's like you just lose whoever was in that position. Like, he hasn't done anything. And unfortunately, I don't want to just like rag on people, but I mean, that's what Twitter's for. But yeah, it was just kind of a dark hole of. It was like not having a player right there. So
it really
There's no
was.
need to play him. There's no need to play him. He's brought nothing to this team. He's not even a Dortmund player, and it sounds crazy, but there's just like, if you wanted to look for that little bit of spark, Gittens would have been the answer. This has been a young kid that everyone's hyped about. I promise you would have seen more from him over 67 minutes than you would have Renier. It's just a super weird decision, and it just spoke to all the negativity that was going on before the match. Yeah.
And bynoe-gittens definitely did bring that spark, which I'd love to talk about him a little bit more as we get into the second half. But coming on to this one, usually when we're away at the Allianz Arena, we can be pretty nervy at times and a bit overly cautious, which causes us to make mistakes early on. And Bayern are just, the champions of the world at pouncing on those opportunities, and they win the ball so high up the pitch and they could just easily score on us. But I mean, those first 15 minutes, I think we kind of outplayed them. I mean, I feel like we pressed pretty well, had some decent counterattacks, and looked really composed on the ball, at least for those first, quarter hour or so, which was very surprising to see.
Yeah, I was taking notes too. As far as first 15 minutes, it's like we're in this game. We're creating some good runs, creating a few chances, but I think the important thing was early on was we weren't letting them, like, they didn't have a lot of chances, and we were kind of holding them. We were able to hold them up until I always like to take notes like every 15 minutes, and right when I was typing my 15-minute recap, they get the corner, which turned things obviously pretty quickly. But I mean, your thoughts on how the game started and how the early flow was, Josh?
No, it started really well. I honestly thought it was going to be a lot worse in the first 15 minutes. I just assumed Bayern would have found one in the back of the net, killed off just anything that they were feeling, but they balanced it out well. It's just one of those things where the opportunity will come. And I felt like all three of the goals at some point could have been avoided, but it's typical Dortmund way to kind of shoot themselves in the foot and any momentum that they had. And it's almost like moral wins. Okay, we lasted 15 minutes. And then as soon as that happened, it kind of fell apart a little bit from there. The match was decent throughout. Like we're speaking like they lost 6-0. They didn't lose 6-0, but it was just so disappointing throughout the course of the 90 because from the starting 11 to the actual match, I mean, the only real positive points I can look at is that opening 15, and then that's just a moral win. That's all it is because they scored right after that, and then it was always catch up from there.
Yeah, we really are our own worst enemy when it comes to these kinds of matches. Absolutely, it runs back not only throughout this entire season, but the last few years as well, and. That first goal almost seems like it came out of nowhere. It came off that corner, and Gnabry is just, that's just pure talent and class that he has to put that away. And thankfully, it didn't look like we really dropped our heads too much. Usually in those kind of situations, especially at Bayern, they score that first goal, and then, then it's just wide open, and, we're really down in the dirt, and we put our heads down, and it's just a matter of, like, surviving any sort of humiliation that we can, be served in the remaining 70 or so minutes. But, it looked like we kept our heads high, at least for a while. And then it just came down to, Zagadou making another boneheaded mistake, unfortunately, which, over the course of like the last 6 or so months, it's funny to see how much of I still am like a Zagadou fan, but like, it's just so hard to defend him every week in and week out. I just keep having more and more people pile on me. And it's like, it's kind of hard to defend him at this point after every week.
Yeah. I thought him and Akanji that big mistake obviously cost a goal. And that's what happens when you're a defender and you make a mistake. And we just tend to, it doesn't matter who's back there, Akanji, Zagadou, Hummels, they always will just make a mistake, unfortunately. But I thought they still played decent for the most part. I thought he did some really good things. It's just that one big mistake under the goal.
And that's not the first time he's done that kind of thing, to concede a goal like that at Bayern, you know?
Yeah, you're going to get a nice unfiltered Josh, because recently I've been working with Dortmund on their Twitch doing videos. Like I always give the player the benefit of the doubt. And if you wear black and yellow, I'm going to love you. It's just the way it works. But I have never trusted Zagadou since the second he's came to Dortmund. He's a walking mistake, and there's simply no way around it. I don't know what argument you can make, and I'm curious to get your guys' take as well as why keep him around. I've been saying this for years. Honestly, I've been saying it, and it's not fair to highlight this situation, but it was in the title challenge that we had, and it was the game. I believe it was in Bayern. It might be the goal you're talking about when Zagadou just gave the ball right to Lewandowski.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he does this type of thing all the time, and he's injured all the time as well. And I think that if his career could have went maybe down a different path at the beginning, if he could have found a string of performances or could have just stayed healthy, he could have been the defender they thought they were getting. But 3 years on, he's still that walking mistake. I don't trust him whatsoever. He's made him another big mistake in a big match, and I just think it's time to cut your losses. I don't think he's ever going to turn around his career. I just don't think he's the same guy that Dortmund thought he was getting.
You hit the nail right on the head. 2019 me would have made the argument of like, well, I think he's been improving in some areas, but when he caught those string of injuries and you're out for not at one time, but it seemed like at least 14 months or so out of the last 2 years, you just don't have the time and ability to really try to work those errors out of your game. And he came back looking arguably worse, in my opinion, than what he did to start off with. So, and when he did come back a few months back, I was like, you know what, maybe this can be a really long but hopeful redemption arc. And then I watched him just become more and more of a liability every game, and I'm like, I can't defend the guy anymore. Unfortunately, it sucks to say, but
it is. It's so difficult too when you're young like that, and especially a young defender. You need to get those matches. It's the reason why Renier is never going to make it. You can't just toss him in a game like this when he's on loan, never playing. You need to go. You need to play. You need to stay fit. And if all those things don't go your way, you're just behind the curve. And it's like Zagadou's always been chasing down, trying to be a starting player. When he finally gets that opportunities, he gets run over, and he just looks the way he does. And I just think maybe a change of scenery will be a good opportunity for him. And he's also young. Someone's going to cash in on him, and Dortmund could use that kind of money and reinvest. He is still an asset. I just don't ever see it working here at Dortmund. I really don't.
Yeah. I think as you guys mentioned, the inconsistency, the in and outs, the injuries, and that just plays on kind of, it's like a systematic issue almost, because that's kind of what we've seen too with him, Akanji, and Hummels. It's just this, we don't have a solid who's our pair, who's our center back pairing, like who is it? Like we don't know week to week, whether it's injuries or just someone's a little out of form, or Zagadu's, he's always got a mistake in him. So, and I think that lack of consistency and being able to build that really hurts not just Zagadou, but all of them. Or if they were able to work him in a little better consistently, where he didn't get the injuries over the years, then he could have just played in and built a partnership with someone. But I think the inconsistencies there, and then also the switches from a back four to a back three, which, I mean, Carver and I we are real hype on let's play a back three where we've been. But also at the same time, it's like it just doesn't, we don't know who the center backs are really. So yeah. I think
it's fine. We're gonna have Sula and Schlotterbeck next year. It's not gonna matter anymore. Yeah.
Man, that'd be so sexy with Lynx. Just getting more and more heating up of for Schlotterbeck. I know it was off and on for the last few months, but that's going to be a sight to see if we can sign both of those two center backs. And we'll have on paper the best defensive pairing in the league, in my opinion. I really do think that. But it wasn't just the mistakes at the back either, because. Whenever you dig yourself into those kind of holes at Bayern, it's going to be even harder to claw yourselves out, especially whenever you don't have much of an attacking threat. And I think that was one of our bigger problems this game as well. I mean, it looked like it was relatively easy for us to get into their final third at times, but just lacked that final pass to finally be like clinical in front of goal pretty much all game. I mean, you'd have a good build-up coming out of the middle, and then right when you get into that final third, again, just didn't really have any other options besides to try to dish it to Holland, which, works in some areas. But I know, Josh, you were saying Holland usually has a field day with players like Upamecano in the last few meetings. I mean, go back to last year at the Pokal, and he was just bodying Upamecano all game. But it looks like this game, he did his homework on Holland and was able to contain him a little bit more, which just took the sting out of Holland's attack in a few different opportunities,
Yeah, I think Upamecano definitely did better. I mean, I do think Upamecano is like a solid center back. I just think when it came down to it, I mean, Holland was in the mood, and when it came to that Pokal final, he just ran him over. I think Lucas Hernandez really balanced out Upamecano's game a little bit just to help him out. But I mean, when you're talking about a nice build-up play, it's almost like the starting 11 for Dortmund didn't play together a lot. It's like there's a couple different holes in it. It's like they weren't sure exactly what Wolf's role was on the overlapping runs, Ranier being non-existent. So, I mean, it's one of those things. Maybe it could have went Holland's way and he could have found the back of the net. It could have been a little bit different, but I just think a 3-1-ish scoreline was basically what we were going to see. I just didn't think enough spark was going to be there. I think Royce looked good from his moments, obviously leading to the penalty. But I guess a bit of a kudos to the back four for Bayern, because I was a little skeptical at the start. I'm like, okay, maybe Holland can have some fun here, but no, it didn't really go that way.
That's another good point to mention Wolf as well. I've said in recent months, really, that I think you're kind of setting him up for failure when you play him in that back four, because he has so much of a defensive responsibility that, he might get cooked a little bit and against different opponents, which thankfully I think he actually did look relatively decent against, Alphonso Davies and Kingsley Coman. Unbelievable amount of pace and talent as well, and ability and attack. So I think he weathered that storm relatively well for the player that he is. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to kind of build any sort of defensive structure with the back four that we kind of had going into this one.
Well, it's funny, and I mentioned this a lot. I'm sure you guys have probably heard it, and you definitely understand it. The fact that you said we should be playing with a back three, but it just baffled me, and I don't know if this is something on Marco Rosa in terms of just wanting to be stubborn or just being very determined to play the system that he wants to play. But I mean, if you look at the starting 11 for Dortmund right in this match, you had Wolf, who is, I don't care what anyone says, at the very least, he can maybe be a wing back, but he is a right mid. He's a right winger. That is his position. You got a player playing out of position at the back. You have Guerrero, who I love, but again, you could almost argue the same thing.
I was about to say, yeah.
He's a wing back. He is not a proper left back. You have an iffy Emre Can and Bellingham, which, I mean, you can argue they're playing their proper positions. You got a Cam and Brandt out wide. You got I don't know what, and Ranier out wide. I mean, I think he's a Cam. I don't really know. So you have at least 4 or 5 players playing out of their proper positions. If you wanted to tweak this around, you could have done Wolf at right wing back, which is a more of a fit. You would have had to sacrifice someone, Ranier, put on Prongacic, have him out at outside right center back, have Zagadou outside left, Akanji through the middle. Guerrero then is allowed to be a little bit more advanced as a left wing back with Chan, Bellingham through the middle. Then you have the dual cams, Royce, Brandt, Holland. Everyone is playing their proper position. And instead, I don't get why he doesn't. He's done it all season. He doesn't like playing with a back three. It's not his system. He's a 4-2-3-1 guy, which is fine. It's just, it comes to a point where you have to look around at the personnel you have, and we don't have the personnel to fit that system. And it's why a lot of these matches go the way they do. And I just don't know and again, I'm curious to see what you guys think, if it's just purely being stubborn or Marco Rose is just absolutely, maybe he doesn't trust players. I don't know. I'm just confused because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of being stubborn, but also maybe he's not the most proven manager either. I mean, he did some decent stuff at Salzburg, and he had had moments at Gladbach. But other than that, I mean, you look at his resume, and he doesn't really have, the history of these brilliant philosophies to take on different types of opponents. So it's a good shout for sure. I think it could be a mix of a few different things, but as much as I have criticized Rosa in this season, I do got to give him credit to where credit's due going into halftime at least, and for him to be able to kind of galvanize the team and lift him up as much as he could to go out the second half and have some fight to him. I think we came out of the second half being 2-0 down at Bayern. Usually it's game over, but I think we had a little bit of spirit in us. We had some fight in us, and I had 7? No, I don't want to say 7, but probably like 5 or 6 attacks in the first 10 minutes. So. And that was pretty motivating, or at least inspiring to see.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one thing we have talked about a lot, and like every week, like, let's go to a back three, and we see it sometimes, and he'll almost play this like shifting back line, like in attack they'll go to a back three, but then with that we also see like players getting caught out or not getting back in time. Rafa not getting back in time, which actually this game I thought he did pretty well to get back. He made a couple big
he definitely made that
slide ins to get the ball, win the ball back. But also it seemed like we lost him going forward. We didn't create much going down that left side. But yeah, it's interesting to see. And I mean, I don't get paid millions of dollars to be a manager, so maybe I don't know. But from our perspective, it seems like given the injuries and the players we have, you're like, yeah, why aren't you changing up the system when you're just leaving gaping holes in the system you want to play? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I say it all the time too. I was like, I'm not a manager, so I mean, this is just coming from a fan perspective, but I mean, he definitely has opportunities where you just look at who's available. It's not even like, okay, I'm not saying if they would have played in that back three that this result would have been any different. I want to make that very clear. They could have lost 4-0.
Yeah.
But it just, in hindsight, looking at the strengths of these players, you're not giving them anything. You're putting them in players who maybe shouldn't be playing this match anyways. Now you're putting them out of position. Like, how do you think that's going to go? And that's just, I think, what frustrates a lot of the fans when they look at the starting 11 and saying, okay, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to put Renier out wide. You're going to put Wolf at right back. How do you see this going? And it's easy to say from a fan's perspective. So, I mean, hey, if we got Marco Rose on here, I'd be very curious to see what he had to say about it.
I will say one thing that probably would have changed the scoreline is if the refs actually had some pretty decent calls.
Yeah.
I am really I'm not one to bitch at referees much, but my God, it seems like every time we play against Munich, there is just some like insane controversial call, one minimum each game, and just like, man, I mean, just even the first, what was it, in the 48th minute, whenever Brandt had that beautiful run in the middle, and Pavard just. Even before the replays, I was like, whew, that did not look like he got much of any of the ball. And the ref had a good position on it. I mean, he was on the complete other side of them, so he wasn't like, he wasn't behind the play. And I was like, all right, I guess the ref saw something else that I didn't. And then the replay shows you, and it's like, Jesus Christ, he did miss that kind of a blatant call like that. It's insane.
I mean, watching the replay, at least you're thinking, holy crap, okay, at least we'll have VAR, because then they call it like, oh, well, unless it's a red card decision. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a red card decision.
It's definitely a shout. Yeah, again, it could be one of those orange calls.
I mean, I've seen
orange cards.
I've seen that in the Premier League, like those go as red before. So pretty wild to get the no call, and then I mean, we saw the other one later in the box with Jude. But what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say it was, and I saw it all over Twitter. Like, I mean, it seems like after every Dortmund Bayern game, there's something to cry about. And that's what they say. Like, Dortmund fans crying, but there usually always is something, and it's a little bit more controversial. This time, all over Twitter, we saw like analysts and people come out saying, if you're a Dortmund fan, you act like this is a real reason to be upset. Like this, there was mistakes all over the park from the referee, and it just is one of those matches. So, but it then just goes on the narrative of this happens all the time. It happens all the time where Bayern and Dortmund meet. And I mean, I've seen different situations where like, okay, it's 50-50. I mean, obviously on the Dortmund side, and I'm upset because it didn't go my way. But this one was just blatant, and I saw it all over social media, and it was just quite ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, I get people coming at others for saying, like, you're decrying about different calls, but it's like when you have a legitimate case like that, I mean, something needs to be said, and people need to voice their opinions because, I mean, this isn't the first. Hell, I don't even think it's the first time this season when we played Bayern where it's had been a controversial call, but you can go back to almost any other fixture. I mean, Boateng's handball when we were at home a few years back, right whenever COVID started. I mean, that was pretty insane as well. And I think we had VAR at the time in the Bundesliga, and we still didn't get that called back. That's 2 penalties right there. And just, again, the list goes on and on of those kind of controversial calls. Again, I'm not saying like, that's the sole reason that we don't win against Munich every single time. But my God, it definitely can change the outlook of games going on. Absolutely.
Was it the same guy on both challenges too? The one in the box?
Pavard, yeah. Yep.
So even if it was not a red, but even if he got a yellow on that first, and then that the one in the box could have been another yellow, possibly. I mean, probably. Yeah, just nuts. I don't know. On that second one, that's a little bit later in the game, but the one on Jude, I almost thought, I don't know if Jude's attitude worked against him there, where immediately he was like putting his arms up and slapping the ground, which is understandable. But at the same time, like a ref could be like, oh, well, Jude always does this kind of stuff. And he's always yelling and getting in our faces. And so maybe he's like, there was nothing there. Without even, he probably didn't get that good of a look at it, which is why he didn't think much about it. And then when Jude throws his arms up, he's like, no, whatever. When it was clearly a foul, when you see the replays, like clearly should have been a penalty. And like you said, maybe we score and Bayern probably would have found another way to score and still beat us. Maybe we don't win. But, I mean, that can, it
changes the outlook, yeah.
It can be frustrating for a player, and it's interesting because I usually see this a lot with like wingers when you're good on the ball, you're good at running at defenders, you're getting chopped down, you're getting taken out. But Jude's just everywhere. It's why he's just one of my favorite players to watch, and he constantly puts himself in those situations where he gets chopped down, and it's just because that's the way he plays the game, and it's frustrating when rightly so. Like he's going for the ball, he gets the ball, he moves on, and if he gets chopped down, he doesn't get these kind of calls. This has been happening to him all season long. He's had calls go against him pretty much for a lot of his Dortmund careers. You guys all remember the City match. So it's just a ton of frustration for a young kid who's going out there. He's doing everything to get the call, then to not get it just adds frustration, and maybe a little bit more maturity. He'll better be able to handle it. But I mean, I've played the sport. I know what it's like. I used to play on the winger, so I just always remember getting chopped down like that, and then refs being like, "I get up," and it's like, piss off, man. Like that's a foul. like get it together, and I understand Jude, and it's part of the energy I love to see him bring, and it's I mean, Grealish is another perfect example. When he was playing for Villa, man, he got brought down all the time. Very similar kind of situations.
Yeah, I think he was like the most fouled player in the Premier League last season or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. And eventually, when you put yourself in those situations and you get fouled a lot, the ref kind of like, okay, well, that's what you do. So it's one of those things. But I mean, I wouldn't change Jude's game for anything. I just love everything about the kid.
Yeah, and in no way am I saying like, oh, Jude complains too much. Like rightly so, because he gets torn up. And I mean, even I think it was, I don't remember, I think it was Rangers. I don't remember the exact game. Wherever, like his shoe literally like ripped in half, and it was a no call. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he like walks up to the ref with his shoe ripped in half. He's like, dude, like, yeah.
Could have pulled who's the guy, the Turkish guy, Turan from Barca. Remember he hummed his shoe at. I don't know if you ever seen that clip. He gets taken down. It's like, this is a foul, and he hums it. That's what Jude should have done. But no, I agree with you, man. Like it's just what you love about him. He always just puts himself in those kind of positions. But I mean, it just, when you don't get a call in a game like this, it can be so demoralizing and so frustrating because these kind of decisions could change the outcome. Like that, there's situations in that match where penalties called, red cards given, something like that. Those can change. That's the beautiful thing about this sport is a red card can change everything. I'm not saying it would, but it could. And it doesn't seem like Dortmund ever gets on the right calls.
Well, even on that, so the Jude call, and I'll mention this, and then we'll bounce back a little bit to our first goal. But that was in the 60th minute, so that could have, granted, I mean, depending on how the play goes. But I guess if the play plays out how it did with the no call on Brandt, we did get a little redemption with the penalty a few minutes later, and so we converted that. Chan put it in with the Royce drawing the penalty in the box. But the next potential penalty, quote unquote, was Jude in the 60th minute. So that's a complete game changer to where. Tie game and anything's on, and we already came out with such good energy in the second half where that's a complete game changer.
Yeah, and even a few minutes before that, we had 3 opportunities in 5 minutes of, not clear-cut chances, but, pretty decent opportunities to net one. I think we kind of gave Bayern like a little taste of their own medicine of trying to win the ball high up the pitch, and then you had the combinations of Royce and Haaland trying to penetrate those lines and hopefully score, but again, just kind of lacked that final pass, whether it was, Royce just having like just 1 second too late, or not even like a half second too late of the ball being too far ahead of him, or, Haaland not having the right pass. It's just frustrating. And then whenever you try to have that, opportunity to hopefully get a penalty, and then you could tie the game up, that's whenever it changes everything. But yeah, again, demoralizing. You said it for sure. Yeah, the rest of the game, I mean, pretty frustrating as well. It's just a matter of, Bayern are not going to lay down, and they're going to act like champions, and they're going to be way more clinical in front of goal than us, unfortunately. And I think that's been, usually one of the telling signs of the last few times we've met with them is just us not taking our opportunities, whether we make some mistakes early on and then Bayern capitalize on those, or if we do net like 1, even 2 early on, they can just crawl the way back because they're actually, wanting to go and score every time, unlike us, unfortunately.
It's ruthless is the word when I think of Bayern over the years. They're absolutely ruthless. You don't have the perfect game every sense of the word. They will punish you. And refs have never helped in the past, but in my opinion, it's just Dortmund just do it to themselves. And it's a recurring story. I mean, we can say, I'm not trying to come on here and be like, oh, we lost because of the refs, because that's not the case. I think we lost because of ourselves. And it's just one of those things where Bayern just doesn't seem to make those mistakes. And if they do during the season, it's never against Dortmund.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly what we did right towards the end of the game. I knew when it was 2-1, probably towards like the 65th or something, I was like 100% there's another goal in this game, whether it's going to be us tying it up or Bayern making it 3-1. And yeah, again, Rafael Guerreiro with a poor clearance. That's not the first time he's done that this season. I know even in the first meeting against Bayern at home, he didn't have the greatest clearance either. And I think that goes back to, again, if he's a little bit more far out in the wing and we have like a proper left back, maybe they can deal with that a little bit better and have kind of the IQ of the defensive awareness of what's going on and have a better clearance. Because, again, whenever you make that sort of a, poor clearance and you have keepers like hits in the back, it's just going to be, you're setting them up to fail. And that's whenever it made it 3-1 and just took the sting out of everything in our game. And
I mean, the listeners might think it's maybe a little too easy just to say, "Oh, Guerrero's not a left back." But I mean, these things are true. I mean, it's kind of the same way when you hear like United are a little annoyed playing with Ronaldo because Ronaldo maybe doesn't press and doesn't have the same type of. I mean, who's gonna be upset to have Ronaldo? Well, it depends on the type of manager. Guerrero, in my opinion, should be playing for Inter Milan. That's just right off the bat. That's a team that has a clear system. It is a 3-5-2. He would thrive in that type of system, and he has his responsibility. He knows exactly what he wants to do. I'm not saying he wouldn't have been somehow back in that position, and that goal might not have happened. But when you line up and put him in a proper left back position like he is, I mean, this kind of match where the possession is a little bit more in Bayern, you're going to see him doing a lot more defending than you're going to see him doing attacking. And these type of things are going to happen because it's not the strong point of his game.
Especially whenever you have a manager like Rosa that doesn't focus a lot of his philosophy on defending. Favre was a lot more of a conservative manager, and I think at times, Rafael or Guerrero did defend somewhat decently. Like, we had Barcelona at home, and somehow Guerrero was marking Messi the entire time, and I think that we held them to it was either like a 0-0 or something like that, or they only scored 1 against us. So, especially whenever you're a manager that's more attacking minded, you need to put players in their positions that are going to set them up for success. So, yeah, absolutely, well said.
Exactly. Guerrero's come right out and said, "I want to play as a wing back." He's like, "That's where I'm at the best. That's where you're gonna see me." But it's funny because he does play as a left back for Portugal. But again, I mean, I don't look at where you play for your national team and be like, okay, that's where he's gonna do it a 34 game season and do it to success. Because I think sometimes he can be a bit of a headache. Because I absolutely love Guerrero. I don't think if Marco Rose is gonna stick to this 4-2-3-1, I think Guerrero is a huge problem because I just don't know if he can do it. If you're not going to adapt and play to him, you're not using him to his fullest. You might as well get some money in, get a proper left back who can fit your system and move forward. And it's sad to hear, but what's the point of using Guerrero when you're not using him to what he's made to do? Because when he's in the mood, Guerrero is a special player.
Oh yeah. It is sad to hear because I know his stock is at a huge high right now, and we've had him for so many years, and he's a joy to watch. But Yeah, I completely agree. You don't want to just run his stock into the ground and run his career into the ground if you're not going to use him properly.
And then even when we have like switched to a back five or with wing backs pushing forward, if we like transition to like a back three at times, there's still seems to be some confusion, and that's the inconsistency with the center backs, where I think it was last game where there was, or maybe a couple games ago, I don't remember, where I don't think they scored, but they had a one-on-one with oh my gosh, I'm blanking on everything. they had a one-on-one with Kobel due to, I think it was Akanji and Zagadou. Like Guerrero had pushed up, and then Akanji and Zagadou were completely on the right side and weren't just like covering. So there's just a lot of confusion to where we do play. If we do switch to a back three, not everyone's still up to date or knows exactly what to do in the system because it's always changing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like the team wears a bunch of different faces. You could see bits of Rosa in there, you could see bits of Favre, you could see bits of Terzic. It goes back of just players not really having like a set game plan day in and day out, unfortunately, like teams like Bayern. So
yeah, they look lost a lot of the times. Yeah. I don't know what exactly they're looking to do when it comes to when they play that back three, because it almost seems like, because you're right, they do play it once every 10 games. It's like, okay, stop gap, we're throwing it a back three today. It didn't work, and now we're just revert right back, and then it's just the same kind of things, pushing players in the wrong positions. Yep.
So, in the end, expected result, at least from what Josh and I were predicting, kind of a somewhat of a hammering, and the Bayern lift the title, which is sad to see, especially whenever they're playing against us on that day. But, there are a bunch of things I could talk about for this game and performance, but there's one thing that I probably wouldn't say, what I would say in most performances from Dortmund this season is gutless. I think this team did not look gutless whatsoever in this game. Again, even from the first 15 minutes, came out, looked composed, looked confident, and a little bit fearless as well. And, this kind of a game was always going to be a really tough one, and especially coming out 2-0 down in the second half, and we showed some fight in us. So I really think we showed some bravery, and we were bold in our play, but just, again, mistakes at the back are always going to cost us. And if anything else, this was an event to highlight and expose the areas for much needed improvement in this team. I mean, the issues go back years and years, and this is just a worldwide event to really expose those areas.
Yeah. So I think immediately after watching the game, because I had to watch it on delay, I know biggest game of the season, and I couldn't watch it live, but I texted Carver the next morning, and I was like, I thought it was a decent performance, and it might sound weird saying we lost 3-1, and obviously I just think the timing of this game makes it hurt a lot worse, but how terrible this season's been. I mean, terrible, and we're still in second. But with the injuries and how the inconsistencies and everything, I think the timing of this, like obviously they won the title. We only have a few games left. Season's over. Season feels like it's been over for a while. But if we were to play this game earlier in the season and to play, I kind of want to say that well, because we didn't get battered and we still had a lot of chances.
We did have chances. We just couldn't take them, unfortunately.
And I think coming off the last two games, it looks like we're getting a decent run. Yeah, we lost this game, but I still saw a lot of positives in this performance that I haven't seen throughout the season, and to see those positives against Bayern was a good sign for me. I thought what made me happy, although we lost, and I don't know, there's a lot of negative to it too, but I think you take this game at a different time in the season, and I would take a lot of positives out of it.
And I get what you're saying, but this for me is a kind of a different point. But whether it's played in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, I think that there's almost something like in the back of the player's mind. It's beyond just the realm of possibilities that we're going to win this match, because they've lost now 8 consecutive competitive matches in a row to Bayern. 8 consecutive, and there's been some hammerings in there. Now, in their defense, the last few have been closer, but it's just almost like in the back of their heads, it's like something is like, we can't do this.
Like it's unwinnable,
We're not good. We're not good enough to do this, because they've been in situations. They were up 2-0 after 10 minutes? Lost 4-2.
Yeah.
I know they lost 6-0 and 5-0, a couple ones in there. They lost a couple 3-2s, but it just seems like there's been at least 3 or 4 matches too where it's like, we're going to win this, or at least get a draw. 8 consecutive competitive matches in a row they've lost. And in the back of my head, I'm like, when are they going to win? When is this streak going to end? And yeah, I mean, maybe if the cards turned, but I felt like if they're going to end this streak, it's going to be at home. It's never going to be this away match, whether it's the first game of the season, the last game of the season. That's just my opinion. I just don't know if this group is strong enough mentally to get over this hump. I think they're going to have to do it, hopefully completely reconstructed next season, and maybe grab that home match against Bayern and see if they can do something.
Yeah, well said. I mean, especially whenever the players look just fed up in general with the season. I mean, I think there's a handful of players that are just completely done already mentally. But one of the few positives I would also throw in there is one of the players that didn't look fed up with the season was bynoe-gittens. I mean, I really tried to stay away, and I think I have done a good job of staying away from like comparing him to Sancho. But I remember also watching Sancho on his debut or his first 2 or 3 games a few years back, and they were really similar in some of their plays, which, bynoe-gittens was not afraid to take those one-on-ones. I mean, he was really taking the ball and bringing the fight to Bayern, and had lightning pace. It looked really composed on the ball as much as the skill that he had. So very excited to see him next season. I think a winger is something that we've also been really desperate for in attack, and he can definitely be bringing that kind of quality to our team.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's an Englishman, he's quick, he's fast. There's a lot to like, and the Bundesliga has been basically set up in the last little bit to give young English players an opportunity to thrive. So it's obviously to make that connection to Sancho, but why not? Because it's been proven. Jude Bellingham's another one, different position, doing it right now. Take some cojones to come into this match against Bayern and try to take the game to them. But I think if they just give, because remember what they did with Jadon Sancho, they handed the kid the number 7 and said, "You're playing. This is going to be an opportunity for you," and he just took it. So I always find with youngsters that trust almost has to be given. I think it's one of the big reasons, just not to get sidetracked, why Moukoko has almost been a bit of a failure so far. That's a little harsh to say it at Dortmund, but I don't know if Dortmund completely handled his development properly. I think if you're going to bring him up and get him in this type of situation, if you want him to thrive, you almost need to throw him to the wolves and then give him that consistency and give him those type of performances to turn into a Sancho. If you kind of nitpick him here and there and don't let him blossom, I think it'll be a little tricky. So I kind of want to see if they're going to use him for the next 3-4 games, or 3 games, I guess, is what's left in the season, then see if this carries over to next season, if he's going to get a starting role, or if they're going to dump a bunch of money into cams like Brandt and play him on the wing.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree about Moukoko. We've been talking about that all season of, I think the kid deserves more minutes. He's been proving himself throughout his entire career so far, ever since he was like 11 years old. And sometimes you do got to throw him to the wolves in those opportunities. And, if you keep throwing him in 87th minute every other game, you can't expect him to make any sort of impact. So, hopefully these next few games and next season, he can really start to have a little bit of a breakout in his career, because, if we're going to continue to play him like that, I can imagine him wanting to move on real quick, and that is not what I want to see. I think Moukoko is going to be a world-class talent.
Yeah, and that's we've already seen talks about Moukoko or his agent. It's all on Twitter. It's all Twitter, so who really knows? But there's talks that maybe he's trying to get out, or so hopefully. Yeah, maybe, and I guess he's been on the bench, I guess he played, so he's been healthy, so hopefully we can get him some run-ins. The last few games, back to Gittens too. I thought it was real interesting it was interesting to not see him get that many minutes in the Wolfsburg game, especially if you're thinking I might throw him in the Bayern game. That
was interesting. I think he came on in the 65th minute or something like that.
Yeah, 65th or 67th, and he showed that he can give something, and he can on
a stage like
play
that
at this level. He made he had some really good skill moves and working down the wing, some great crosses. He had a great cross to Haaland that probably should have been a goal. So hopefully I'm hoping he'll just start the next game, the next few games, and really get him some solid minutes,
especially when he netted one today.
Yeah, scored today. So hopefully him and Moukoko can get a lot of minutes in the next few games.
Yeah. Do we want to jump into a few Twitter questions before we go?
Yeah, most of them are about, and we started leaning this way anyway, so I wanted to jump into the Twitter questions as far as we talked. I think it was before we hit record, but we were talking about transfers and the lineups, and that's what most of our Twitter questions are about. And since Josh, we have you on here, we'll let you give an answer, because Carver and I have just been shelving most of these answers, because my big thing is what we saw in the winter transfer window with everyone. Everyone was like, Zachary, he's coming to us next summer. Well, guess what? He's at Juve now. So I don't want to get my hopes up about anything. I wasn't even that like hopeful about him. I was more worried because his price was like $6 million. My thing was, well, just pay the money. If you really want him, just pay the money and get him. Don't wait till next summer, because who knows what's going to happen, and he's gone. So that's where I've been with everyone else. Sule is the only one. It's like, yeah, he is our player. Get hyped about him. But everyone else, I don't know. I don't want to jinx anything. Although the Schlotterbeck links have been heating up lately. So that one I'm a little more like, I'm excited. And that one I'm a little more here for. But was there one in particular that you saw, Trevor?
I don't have them pulled up, to be honest there, but if you...
Yeah. Okay, so first one, shout out to Ben Howells, who says, who do you think is the new striker we are set on signing? Because I guess there were reports lately that they already have a replacement. They're just holding off announcing it yet. So who's the new striker we're signing? And their other comment was Jamie has to start the next game, which I think he started this friendly, but that aside, I would love to see him start in the next game. And yeah, what are your thoughts on a striker situation?
Josh, do you have any thoughts on who this identity or anonymous identity
mystery
is?
Striker?
Yeah, mystery striker.
The mystery striker. Not really. And this is something I'm a little nervous about when it comes to Dortmund and the board. There's a huge disconnect, in my opinion, from what the manager wants versus what he ends up getting.
Yeah.
I don't think Mullins was the answer, even though I was excited about him. I thought there was going to be a little he's going to become the striker, and then we're going to bring in a winger to replace Sancho, just in reverse order. I think they're looking at Adeyemi. I'm assuming it's going to be Adeyemi because that's the obvious answer. But in my opinion, he's not a striker. And now is he now playing on a winger? Are you forcing a striker that's Mullen or Adeyemi to play on the winger while the other one's not a clear number 9 playing up front? So, I'll throw a couple names in because I have absolutely no idea. I'd hope it's someone like Schick. If Bayern lose Lewandowski, which is, a dream, and they bring in like Sebastian Haller, which I've seen recent links to, we bring in Schick, there's a number 9. There's a proper number 9 who can score in the Bundesliga, who's an actual, he's a number 9 through and through. That's what I would like to see. I've heard names like Timo Werner, not a 9, not doing it. I think he'd be fun to bring in, but he's not in the system under Marco Rose, who's playing a one-striker system. Same, in my opinion, goes at Adeyemi, but he's young, he's German, so you better believe he's going to sign for Dortmund.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. This summer is going to be so fascinating of the 17 different rumors that are popping in, whether people are leaving or coming in for Dortmund. It's going to be interesting to see it. I would be pumped to see Adeyemi as well. I've seen him play a little bit more recently, and I think he looks really exciting. But yeah, as you mentioned before, we already have as players similar to that ability of Mullen. They're both really not number 9s, or we want to just kind of have like 3 attacking midfielders almost as our attack. Or I know also we've been seeing pop up here and there for the last 2 months of Ekitike from Rhyme. You know what? Damn, I said that wrong. I know people like on Sky Sports saying it's not Reims, but Reims, or for something like that for the French team. But I know he had like close to like 10 goals or so for this season. He's a young striker as well, so maybe him as well. But who knows? I think we still have some other holes to fix as well, whether it be defense, box-to-box midfielder. I think should be also a very high priority as well. So hopefully we can land one of each positions. I think that'd be really beneficial. You want to do one more?
Well, let me you pick a Twitter question. I'll throw my 2 cents in there, which I don't have an answer for a striker. I hope they're not just like, oh, the mystery striker is Mullen. We've had him this whole time.
Yeah. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, guys, we already have him. He's on the bench. Josh, what you said about Adeyemi, everyone's very hype on him, and I get it. He's an exciting young player, but he's not the answer as far as the striker, because that's not the position he plays. So I do like to shout for Werner, because I just think obviously he hasn't shown for Chelsea, very inconsistent, and that's I think part of the team situation at Chelsea too, because that's what you see with Pulisic too, and all their front 3 and strikers. It's just hard to get in that team and get some consistent form. But I think coming back to the Bundesliga, it could be really good for Werner. So I wouldn't hate seeing him come into that fold. As far as a straight-out striker, though, I have no idea. I don't know.
It'll be an interesting one either way. But I found a question here. Andre Swan said, great addition for the show, by the way, to bring Josh on. Couldn't agree more. Thanks for coming on. He says, knowing Dortmund can't go all out to remove every bad fit, who will be a priority to sell this summer? And I think there's already a handful that are confirmed leaving. So, whether it be Berkey's coming to St. Louis, of course.
I was hoping he was going to get some minutes. I was like,
Yeah,
one
me
last
too. I know, me
hurrah.
too.
Let Berkey save the day.
Me too. I'm pretty sure Hitz is going to be leaving as well. I thought there was one more off the top of my head. I mean, Zagadou as well. Would that be a priority for you to get rid of, I imagine, Josh, or anyone else?
I'll just quickly name off players I'd like to see leave, and then I'll give you guys a couple other players I'd like to come in just to make it very straightforward. These are players that I just think it's time. It's simply time to move on. Zagadou, Hazard, Guerrero for not playing reasons. If you're going to stick with the back four, then get rid of him. If you plan on utilizing him properly, yeah. But if not, there's a ton of money. Schultz, with everything you can do, get Nico out of this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say a Kanji as well. Depending on the money situation, let him go to the Prem. I'd maybe keep Brandt. I mean, I would maybe if you're bringing in Adeyemi, flip Mullen, just try to. But I doubt that's going to happen. Witzel's leaving. Pongacic, we're not going to re-sign. I would maybe look to get on Wolf as well as Berkey, and then I don't give you a ton of names, but I mean, bringing someone like Schlager through the CDM position would be ideal for me. You're getting hopefully Schotterbeck and Sula as your two main center backs, with Hummels coming in as a bit part role, Adeyemi as well, and then Baku's another right back that, I mean, I don't know exactly which right back we're going to go, but I mean, it probably now should have slipped to a left back from selling everybody, but I don't know, a promising out and out balanced fullback, some sort. I don't know.
Yeah, I would. Schultz is a good shout. I would definitely probably look to get rid of him as well. I mean, he's a workhorse, and I'll give him that, but other than that, he doesn't really have much to offer at all, and we're in desperate need of an actual left back that's going to bring some stability in the back. So probably Schultz for me, is because the other people, at least look like they're going to be leaving either way. Only other person I would have mentioned with Akanji is, I know he has one more year in his contract. So yeah, which it looks like it's happening so far, but if we're looking to cash in on that, I think Akanji is going to be going for a lot of money. I think he's easily one of the most underrated center backs in Europe. So hopefully we can cash in and get a lot of money for him. But unless we want to try maybe one last time with his contract, but I mean, the last few times that we've looked to offer him one since the start of this year, it looks like he's rejected everything so far. So if he's really trying to chase that bag that much, looks like we're going to have to chase that bag as well and get rid of him. So who knows? But yeah, I'd probably put Schultz as a priority for me, number one, if that's at least not already pretty much confirmed leaving.
If you maybe pick one, I pick Zagadou. I don't.
Yeah.
But I just would. I think there's a lot of upside for both the player and the club.
Mm-hmm. We talked a lot about if Zagadou and Akanji leave. Sule's coming in, obviously. Schlotterbeck, hopefully coming in. But I feel like we still need another center back. If Zagadou, Pongracic, and Akanji are out, we're kind of short. Like if with injuries, and especially with Hummels, is there? I mean, if you had to take Zagadou, Akanji, I don't know, because it seems like we preferably Akanji, but it looks like he wants out more than.
I mean, an absolute masterclass would be to sell Zagadou and Akanji to the Prem for stupid money. Pongacic, just let him leave. If you want 4 center backs next season, you got Sula and Schlotterbeck as your 2 starters. You have Hummels there, and then get Nico Stark on a free from Hertha. There you go. There's your 4. They can come in as bit part roles. I mean, I'm hoping that a ton of minutes hopefully can fall on Schlotterbeck and Sula, and then again you have Hummels and Stark there when you need them. That's not too bad, and then you hopefully will bring in maybe 50 mil for Akanji and Zagadou, which is ridiculous to think between the two, maybe even more.
Yeah. And hopefully maybe Koulibaly as well. I know we haven't seen much of him at all this season, and I totally understand that he was a long-term investment, but at the same time, you hopefully want to try to give him any sort of minutes after a year and a half or so of being here. So, yeah,
Josh, one day.
Yeah. I would totally imagine Josh, Manchester United overspending on at least one of those 2 players of Akanji or Zagadou. I mean, it's in their DNA to do that, and we're also a club to continue to dick them. So it's I love whenever we keep giving United just the finger like that. I love it.
Well, okay, but now they have Ten Hag, so if they actually give him some control, which he's going to want, I don't know, hopefully we can still sneak him in there.
Yeah.
All right, so 3 games left. This is kind of like a flashback, except the season's already over. But Carver and I, we started this podcast after the first Der Klassiker this season, and so we came in these last 3 games of the before the winter break, and we're like, all right, we can go on a nice run, get 9 easy points, get right up there. I don't know if it was maybe surpassing Bayern, but sitting that number 1 spot, which did not happen at all. We played terribly in these last 3 games. I think we got 1 win out of them, but hopefully we could end on a high note. So this Saturday, playing Bochum, who've actually shot up the table a little bit. They're sitting in 13th. Not in great form because it's Bochum. I'm not trying to talk crap or anything, but this should be, as a lot of games we played this year, looks on paper, it should be a nice, easy win, but who knows what's going to happen. Predictions going into it. Josh, I'll start with you.
I'll say 2-1 Dortmund. I think they usually have a decent bounce back after every Klassiker loss that they receive. So I think that they'll come into it. They're at home, give some couple of young guys an opportunity. I think it'll be tricky. Depending on what the starting 11 looks like, I might change my mind, but I do think they will bounce back with a narrow 2-1 win.
I was, I'm thinking probably a 3-1, but yeah, we'll see. I hope we have a proper response here, but I'm just hoping the team has any sort of spirit and fight left in them to go on and try to get these last 3 wins, because I think it should be 9 out of 9 points these last 3. So I'm going to go 3-1.
Yeah.
Jake?
I'll go 3-1 as well. I think, like I said before, with the exception of this loss, like we 2 games, we're on a good, consistent run, winning 2 games before this loss. But I don't know, it seems like I don't want to say it. I don't want to say we're building momentum, because every time I said that, we lost.
We're consistently inconsistent this calendar year. Yeah.
But I'm confident. I hope that we can go into this and win 3-1. I do kind of want to predict a lineup too, or get your guys' thoughts on who might be coming in starting. Obviously, I want Jamie bynoe-gittens to get the start and get some real playing time. It seemed like last game, every game, I never know who's going to be in the starting 11. Just you never know. Even when you think you know who's healthy and who's injured, you always get a surprise.
3 people get injured in the span of 1 week.
Well, then even I thought it was pretty straightforward with the Bayern game. Even when we found out Kobel was out, and then Renier starts, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, I thought I had it on lock. But any players you think are in or out?
I mean, you nailed it in terms of I don't know who's available. But if I know Marco Rosa, it'll still be the 4-2-3-1. I'm gonna say, if given just hopefully being right that all these players that were in the Bayern game are still in this match. So I'll say the exact same lineup, except start Gittens at the left attacking mid, have Renier out. And other than that, yeah, I mean, I would like to say, go to a back 3, get creative with it. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to say 4-2-3-1. Pretty much the same system, just one swap, and then don't play Renier.
Yeah, would completely agree. I would have said the same thing.
And we'll see what actually happens this Saturday.
Randy's up top and Holland's on the bench.
Yeah,
what is going on?
Oh, man. Josh, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's been awesome. Real quick, though, for people who might not know you, although a lot more people know you than us, so we really appreciate you coming on and joining us. If you want to give out like your socials and how people can find you on YouTube and everything you have going on coming up with Dortmund and the Canadian men's national team leading in the World Cup, and if you want to just...
Yeah, I mean, JJD TV on YouTube is kind of how I've started my social media career, and if you want to get a hold of me or talk with me, I'm mostly on Twitter as opposed to like Instagram, and it's TV_JJD.
Sweet.
And you can also catch me on One Soccer if there's Canadians listening. But
we got some Canadians, a few.
There you go.
And then of course you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts on YouTube by searching the BVB podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the BVBpod. You can email us. No one's emailed us yet. It's all just like spam stuff. So if anyone just wants to reach out on email and say hi, the thebvbpod@gmail.com. Of course, I'll link all of Josh's stuff in the description below. But thanks so much for hanging out. See you guys next time.
Yep. Bye.